Indara's team investigates a vergence in the Force. Sol lets his emotions control him. The truth of Brendok is revealed, and more as the Sky Guys are back to recap Episode 7 of The Acolyte.
We are back here on the Sky Guys podcast covering episode 7 of The Acolyte. We are learned the truth of choice this week. I'm your host, Mike Phillips. Normally here for Pete Consadori. You heard from him in the open here, but he got possessed by the Dark Force cult. He will not be joining us today, but with us as always here, I will say the wise Jedi master of this podcast, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing well. One episode away, and honestly, I usually say I can't believe it, but at this point, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yes, I believe it. Thank God we're almost done.
Yep. Also here with us today, making his first appearance in this series, the fourth Sky Guy here, the fourth member of our crew here that was investigating Brendok, Mike Brescia is here. Mike, how are you?
Mike, doing good. Good to see you. Good to see you, Nick. I'm sorry that Pete's not here. Hopefully he's not being seduced by the witches right now, but, good luck to Pete. But anyway, glad to be here, even though I wish it was on better circumstances. Unfortunately, the show, we'll get into it, but, the show could have been a little better. I'm happy to talk about it and talk about episode 7, but I have my thoughts on the show. So
yeah, I'll give you a real quick here platform. So I know Nick and I and Pete have had our issues with the show in terms of writing is not great, pacing is not great. What is not landed with you here?
So, I agree with all the above. There's just a whole array of things that you get with this show. Some people will even say that it goes against lore in a certain aspect, but I'm sure it's been, discussed time and time again. There's just a lot of things going on. And I will say this, I have my thoughts on the show so far, but I'm still going to hold out for the next episode, right? We have one more, as Nick said, and I'm still going to be hopeful that they're going to try to wrap up the show, with a pretty bow on it, somewhat pretty bow. Who knows if they'll be able to be successful, but I'm very excited to see how they're going to wrap it up. At the end of the day, as much as we might have our grievances with the show, it is Star Wars. So you have to appreciate that it's, something that's given to us. So.
Yep, that's for sure. We'll get more into the show in May here. And Mike, people want to subscribe to the Sky Guys. Do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all your usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys here podcast platforms and get all our episodes there. And those of you guys that just end the summer, if you were to go disappear after next week, you're not going to see us again until Skeleton Cruise. Make sure you subscribe. You want to get all the fun stuff we're doing.
Assuming Skeleton Crew comes when it does. But yeah, just hit that button. It's easy to do.
Yep. People want to follow on social media, Nick. How can they do that as well?
You can follow at Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok.
Yep. And we've been pulling social media comments of the week from when you guys respond to us on Instagram or TikTok on the Reels or on Twitter if you do. I have a fun comment here this week I pulled from our discussion about Vernestra last week. And you go ahead and share that with you guys now on the video version here. This is from O'Yarley on TikTok here. This is about Vernestra's cover-up here with potentially not telling the Senate what's going on here. O'Yarley says, 100% the Jedi hide the existence of the Sith because it threatens their position, already tenuous position in the Republic, calling it now. Or even he's a former Sith, and they're like, well, he wasn't a full Sith, and they play that little word game. So, Mike, what do you think about the whole, this thing, this maybe being the way that the show kind of tries to put a cute little ball on, it's not a Sith. Ki-Adi-Mundi wasn't lying in Phantom Menace kind of angle.
It's a good question. I don't know what to really think of it. I don't know how they were trying to play the ball, with this situation, trying to bring in the Sith. Having Ki-Adi-Mundi, like I said earlier, there are arguments where the show is breaking lore, and some people are very upset that Ki-Adi-Mundi is in the show. Some people are holding on to the lore and legends, at least, that he wasn't born by the time that the show occurred. So when you have this going on, it definitely disrupts emotions and fans. And them trying to bring in the Sith, and then Ki-Adi-Mundi, realizing this somewhat and then trying to deny it in Phantom Menace. I don't know. I don't know how to take that. I don't know if it was a good call by Disney, Star Wars to go this route.
Yeah. Nick, what do you think about this commenter had to say?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. They've completely destroyed my interest in the show with this episode.
Yeah.
With episode 7, that is. Maybe. I don't think the show makes any sense. So
can I ask you a question, Nick? When did this episode ruin it for you? At what moment? Because I know when it ruined it for me.
When I saw the title.
When you saw the title?
Because it was only one, meaning we knew it was going to be the flashback part 2, because episode 3 was the same way. It was 1. So I was like, oh, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be, flashback part 2, which was the worst episode of the show. So now we're getting part 2 of the worst episode of the show. So now a quarter of the show is unwatchable.
Yeah, a quarter of the episode is entirely on the 16 years ago time period.
Yep. And it's
atrocious. Well, here's the thing. I was going to say that the point of this episode that kind of ruined it, but yet I'm trying to be hopeful, is when they announced that they were on a mission because they discovered divergence in the Force.
Yeah.
But I have some thoughts about that, and Mike, we'll get to that, at some point. But I thought it was just interesting. Just once again, reverting back to the lore, the aspect of breaking it to an extent. It definitely caused a lot of emotions amongst fans. So.
Yep. And last vlog plug here, Mike Phillips on YouTube, the video version of this podcast. You guys just seen the social media comment of the week on the YouTube version. You can check it out there. And if you have a little bit of Star Wars news to catch up on this week.
Yep. So Screen Rant is saying that the Acolyte's the second most successful Star Wars show in terms of streaming and engagement. Probably the latter, engagement, not so much streaming, I would assume. People are just talking about the show nonstop because I would imagine because it's so bad.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Yeah. It's crazy just seeing all the comments and just seeing all the all the negative reactions from people. It's it's unfortunate, but
I'll give credit where credit is due. Episode 5 was absolutely almost flawless. It was so good and it made me excited, but there's been so many episodes that it's been so bad. But anyway, number 2, a leak of a Skeleton Crew themed Lego set coming in August has revealed some of the names of the characters. We have Jode, I'm assuming.
Jode or Jod, I would assume.
Jode or Jod. This is going to be the Jude Law character, which we're assuming is the main character. There's Wim, Fern, KX, and looks like it's Neil, perhaps Nell.
I would assume
the ship is going to be called the Onyx Cinder.
Yeah, so a little more information for us.
So we'll see. I mean, based on that set that's potentially coming in August, that would lead me to believe that we are going to see the show in December.
Yeah, by the end of the year.
Yeah, which was the leak, sometime around New Year's.
Yep.
Number 3 is Tim Morrison wants to go back to the Mandalorian and kick some ass and steal an episode the way Pedro Pascal did on Boba Fett, and just enough. Me personally, I hate Tim Morrison. I think he's a terrible actor, at least for Star Wars. I think they had to use him though because they used him in Attack of the Clones. It makes sense, but I think he's terrible. I think he ruined Boba Fett's character. And lastly, here is Lucasfilm is reportedly beginning development on a new animated series. We kind of predicted this when the Bad Batch ended. We said it was going to be more specifically like a show around Rex. But we'll see if that's what it is. We don't know what it is yet. We just know it's animated. Could be anything. But that's kind of our thought process, that it should end up being a Rex program.
Yeah, I think honestly, Nick, is like they're due for another animated show. Especially considering like the live action output appears to be slowing down a little bit because they're trying to focus more on these movies. They want something for Disney Plus, and this would be it.
Yep, and we'll see what it is. See if it's that Rex thing we've been thinking, or maybe it's something entirely new.
I would prefer entirely new.
I'm not sure what I would prefer. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mike, are you sure about that? Because look at this show. Look at the Acolyte, right? I mean, it's all right. You could say mostly new, with the exception of Chiara Mundi coming into the picture. But do you agree that something new may be good for Star Wars?
Like I've been saying forever, I want them to take swings outside their little postage stamp of canon that they've been doing like the past since Disney took over, basically hiding in that little like era of timeline. Like go somewhere else. Let us see something different and not be bound to whatever it is. Just because this
I just don't want to see another show that's between 3 and 4.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want that time period.
Yeah. So hopefully
Yeah, I
we
agree on that.
period. We'll see.
All right, that's it on the news.
That's it.
All right. Now we're going to talk about the episode here titled Choice. This is obviously we got the same time here we got in episode 3, except this time we get it from the Jedi perspective of the team of Indara, Sol, Torben, and Kelnaka here. Nick, obviously, I know you are not a big fan of this episode here, and I admit, like, at first I thought, like, oh, wow, we're going to get through this about half the episode, and it goes the whole time. I thought there was some good in here, but I do not like the fact that we basically spent a quarter of our show on something that happened 16 years ago.
Yeah. I did think, I don't know if you noticed, the pacing was going a lot faster in the beginning.
Yeah.
So like through the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm like, oh, maybe we're going to finish this within the first 20 minutes and then we're going to just move on to something else. And that didn't happen. Honestly, some action towards the end of the episode, which I enjoyed, which made me, I think, enjoy it a little bit more than episode 3. But overall, just probably the second worst episode in any Star Wars show ever.
Yeah.
But not the worst.
What's the first? What's the worst?
Episode 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, to have it where we're rewatching episode 3, which is so bad, right? To rewatch it all over again from a different, I do like it that it's from a different point of view. Right? I mean, I do appreciate that, and I also picked up on the pacing. Right, I thought it was quick, quicker at the beginning, but there wasn't really that much going on. Obviously, towards the tail end, that's the real meat of the episode. So they wanted to hone in more on that. But to have it throughout the whole episode, right, the whole time, just a flashback, the same flashback from a different lens. Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah, it's I think that Leslie Headland does on Rushing Doll, like a show she ran on Netflix, where like you'll see an event, then you'll go see the event from another angle, and you'll learn more information and see that maybe the first version you got was not necessarily a reliable narrator, as we saw. Really, by the end of the episode, what we saw was an unreliable narrator situation with Sol's decision at the end of the episode. But I think this speaks to a problem with the show as a whole, and something that I believe I want to say, one of these websites, I think it was Game Insider, said something about this. Like the episode's too short, but they're trying. They're not. There's not enough story here, and they're trying to stretching it out. Like this could have been one entire episode instead of 2.
This should have been 1 hour-long episode. Or whatever, 15 minutes, whatever it is, I don't know. Where you're going back and forth between the two storylines. You're seeing, you're seeing the 2 perspectives. And it wasn't. It's instead 2 episodes stretched out. Again, this is another Disney Star Wars show that's in reality a movie. It's 2.5 hours long, maximum. And let's stretch it out over 8 to 10 to whatever, 6, whatever it may be, episodes. And try to make money off this thing. And well, actually, they lose money on all their shows. Disney Plus is more of a marketing tool, but it's getting ridiculous now. I'm tired of this.
Yeah, Mike, it felt the same way with like 4 and 5, the 2 episodes that like we basically shot right in the middle of one really long episode. It would have been really cool if we saw the whole thing where they did all the stuff in 4, they cut at the fight, and then we got the fight in 5. It was the best part of the whole show.
Yeah, I mean, it's once again, you go to Nick's point, that they have enough material to create a great movie, right? Or at least, maybe I'll take that back.
They have enough material to make a movie.
To make a movie, exactly. But it's just to try to space things out with having these filler episodes. Yeah, it's a little too much. But I will say, was it worth it to have this episode, reshot, reliving episode 3 in a different lens? it gives more perspective to what happened. I mean, I do appreciate that, like seeing it from Soul's, from the Jedi's eyes, right? Soul's eyes, that, you see, some of the things that may have not gotten picked up from OSHA, right? So, got to appreciate it from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And let's get into some of the six of this episode here. We'll kind of go through, like, as you see here, we do pick up at the beginning here. We get the team of 4 Jedi. We know we're investigating what's going on there. See, Torben clearly is like not thrilled to be on Brendok, and he wants to basically get back to Coruscant. Soul basically tells the audience and us in the tells Torben and us in the process, hey, there's a vergence in the Force here. There was a great hyperspace disaster years ago, which Nick, that's the event we referenced in the Explaining the High Republic show. That's the hyperspace disaster they're talking about. Like, what's going on here? Like, they find versions of the Force that can create life, and that's something that they need to protect it here. So, Mike, the term versions of the Force is something that's directly pulled from episode 1 when Qui-Gon describes Anakin as a virgin of the Force.
Yeah, and once again, it goes back to kind of taking what was built in the trilogy, right? Or not in the prequel trilogy, like building up that, Anakin was the chosen one, right? That there was a virgin in the Force, that he was, he was the chosen one. It takes it away. But then I was thinking about it, and, the Force is such a strong presence, right? It's such a strong entity that, why did there have to be one virgins in the whole universe? I mean, why couldn't there be other virginses? Right? It could have been the Jedi's interpretation that Anakin was the chosen one because of this one virgins that they picked up on.
Yeah.
Even though now we know, now we know that the Jedi knew about this other virgins, but and another thing too,
How did the Jedi knew about the other virgins?
Well, I mean,
Jedi, not the Jedi.
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree with that. But, another thing to consider, too, is that the way that these vergences happened. I mean, with Anakin, it was, and my understanding is that it was created naturally by the Force.
Yep.
Right. Maybe it was in response to what Darth Plagueis was doing. Right. I hear about these different, these different things. But with this Virgins, with Osha and May, it could have, it was something that occurred, amongst the Force or the thread, right, as the witches call it, but it was done intentionally, artificially. So, you have to take every factor in line when you're looking at, comparing the two.
Yeah. Because,
you probably can't.
Yeah. Probably can't hear. Nick, anything you want to add before we move on?
Yeah, but we should move on.
Okay.
I do have stuff to add, but we're not gonna go into it. Next thing you know, we'll be recording 2 hours, so let's just keep going.
All right. So obviously we get a lot of Soul in this episode, where Soul is basically, at this point found he does not have a Padawan of his own. He's like not thrilled how Indara teaches Torben, and she basically says, hey, like you're too emotional to have your own Padawan right now. And we get basically Soul's perspective on the stuff we saw in episode 3, where he finds the twins, he follows them back to their basically a modified mine that they protect themselves in. He goes back, he freaks out, he says, Indara, there's people here, they're gonna hurt these kids, we have to go help them here. And he calls it a Force cult, Nick. That's what he's describing the Covenant as, because Torben throws out, are they the Night Sisters or witches of magic? He says, no, it's a Force cult. So interesting to see here that he's worried about the safety of the twins, and Indara says, okay, I'll go by myself, investigate this. Soul says, no, let's go together as a team. So clearly see Soul is very emotionally invested in this mission here, which is not typically the Jedi way.
It's not, yeah, but he saw that there were like 50 of them. He's like, you can't go alone. Like,
yeah,
they're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
So he's emotionally invested, but we don't know why. And there's one episode left.
Yeah.
So who wrote that? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really invested in something, and there's one episode left, and we don't know why.
Yeah, Mike, I feel like they try to do it at the one line when Indara says, Soul, you're too emotionally involved here, as opposed to showing us over the course of like the show, where maybe if we had one longer flashback, we get moments of this before we see this, where it seems a very out of character the Soul we know.
Well, I just want to point out one thing with Soul. How did he get so invested with the twins just from watching them, right?
Don't know. We
Yeah,
have one episode left. We don't know.
I know. Do you think that answer will come to us in the next episode? You think we'll get that?
We're led to believe that he's just what's the word I'm looking for? Like he wants to help them.
He's compassionate. He's a compassionate Jedi
he's a
who wants
compassionate
to.
person and wants to help them because he thinks they're not being treated right. That's it.
Yeah.
But then that's also not the Jedi way. So I think whoever wrote the show doesn't understand this. They don't understand that that's not the Jedi way, or maybe it's on purpose. I don't know. They don't understand that Anakin was the chosen one, supposed to be one. They don't get it, or they do get it and they don't care. I don't know.
Well, can I also say this though? I mean, this is what 100 years or so before yeah. So things could change, right? I mean, mindsets could change. Maybe the Jedi learned over time, that they need to, practice more, reservations and being, in control more. Maybe
we're led to
see
believe
that
throughout the timeline in Star Wars that this is when the Jedi are at their peak, when they're their strongest. So much signs of weakness already that it's like, how did they even last another 100 years? That's 130 years, really. Or what, I don't know.
Point.
Maybe, no, not that long. But 112, I don't know the years. But whatever it is, how do they even last that long? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. One thing that's interesting here, another thing we got from the fact we obviously see the meeting of them walking into the courtyard. They interrupt the ascension ceremony, and we basically see, remember back in episode 3 when Torben gets possessed by Anastasia, we see inside his mind this time, which I think was pretty cool, where we see Anastasia basically manipulating him, saying like, I know you want to go home, like tell me what you want, I'll make it happen. And then like I thought this was a kind of cool shot, Mike, of seeing like Torben's mind what was going on while we see him with the black eyes in episode 3. I thought that was a cool touch.
Was a cool touch, but it just goes to show that they're adding a level of seduction in this show. I mean, you saw that from the very beginning, but to see that again, it's definitely interesting, and maybe it's on purpose. Maybe, of course, that could attest to the witches on their personality, on how they act, but maybe this is a sign of things to come for Star Wars. I know that there's been talks about getting into R-rated material at some point. Maybe this is a very gentle leeway for that. Who knows?
Nick, what do you think about the possession sequence we got? Because it did feel like they felt like they were trying to do like a horror-y kind of thing, like we did with Chimera reveal in episode 5. This one didn't go for the same degree. It was sort of very much like a temptation kind of appeal they tried to go for here.
Yeah, I know. I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty cool seeing the inside of his mind, like seeing the other side of like essentially like a Jedi mind trick, seeing the other side of it, seeing what goes on. Kind of cool, interesting.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And obviously Torben snaps back to reality, where he comes back and he basically is at the end of the conversation, okay, bring Osha to the ship so she can get trained. And then we get back to the ship, Nick, and Indara is like, wow, great job, Soul. You bought us time so we could talk to the council and see what's going on. And Soul like, no, I want to save these girls. They're being not raised properly by these children. He basically has this belief all of a sudden that I meant to train Osha. She's supposed to be my Padawan. So this sort of came out of left field, Nick.
Yep, makes no sense.
Yeah.
These are not questions we should have going into the last episode.
Yeah.
We should have questions on what's going to happen. I have my theory. It's either this or that, not questions on the motives of characters that I still don't know the motives of almost every character in the show.
Yeah.
You just have to hope they get answered in the next episode.
Yeah.
No,
right?
it should have been answered in episode 4, 5, not 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I still don't know May's motive. I still don't know Soul's motive. I still don't know why. We'll get to another thing. At the end of the episode, there's another thing that I have a huge gripe with, but I still don't know Torben's motive. I don't know anyone's motive.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And Mike, what's going on here? Indara brings up the classic Jedi trope. Oh, she's too old. You can't train her. Soul says, I want to protect her, which is, again, sort of like I think they're trying to just ram down your throat. Like Soul cares too much without really setting up why.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like we don't know why.
Yeah.
All right. And it would have been nice to have known why he is this way, going into this episode. But yeah, let's see what episode 8 brings us. I don't know.
Making that like the thing, it's finding out in 8 why he cared. No, that's bad writing.
Yeah.
Sure, it might make sense at the end of the day. It's like, oh, he cared because I don't know, maybe growing up he had two sisters named Osha and May. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then he feels a certain way, like, oh, because they're the same name, whatever. But that's not good writing. That's just
No.
we're gonna wait till the end and then tell you something.
Yeah, it feels like, oh, we're gonna peel the onion layers away slowly as opposed to like going linearly. It's like a mystery for the sake of a mystery.
Yeah, please don't make it so the big reveal of the show is why he cares.
Yeah.
I know that's not that big of a reveal.
Yeah, who the hell cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we continue with the flashback. We get to the test. May flunks intentionally, and Dara does a good job here. She goes up to place curious, like, oh, what was the ceremony we walked in on? And she basically gets May a spill with the ascension and tells her about how I've become a leader of the group. And Indara is quickly pecking information out of her. Anastasia says you must go through fear to achieve your goals. That's sort of what's going on here. This clearly freaks the Jedi the hell out. And Soul correctly reads May's intentions and asks Indara to go another way with Osha, which she agrees to. Basically, we find out from Indara's perspective that this group is hella dangerous. Like, we don't really know what's going on here. She placates Soul. Soul basically guides Osha through how to pass the test. So, what do you think about what we got here with the test spot, Nick? Now we saw the full version of it.
Really, I don't. It seems like it was the exact same thing I got out of episode 3, just from someone else's point of view. I didn't really learn anything different. Kind of exactly what I figured.
Yeah.
Which is most of this episode, except for like the last scene.
Yeah.
It was exactly what I figured.
Yeah.
So just a waste of 43 minutes.
It was predictable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was predictable here. And Dara does report to the council what she found out. Then the rest of the team have to do some field work, which is where we see Kelnaka with his metal detector. We see the other guy scooping soil, just trying to check for information. About the council.
What are they doing, Mike? What are they doing with that metal detector? What was Kelnaka doing with that?
I think try and look cool.
Yeah. I mean, is that how you look for the virgins in the Force? You use a metal detector? I mean, I didn't
maybe
looking for some, maybe some coins or something like that, some metals, who knows? But it's just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, Nick, that will be one of my images that'll stick with this episode forever. Is Kelnaka with a metal detector, just like scanning the ground most of the episode.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
Maybe he's trying to make it big so he can retire and find some buried.
It reminds me of my dad at Coney Island trying to look for old coins under the pier. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's trying to find some spice, Nick.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
It's a spice detector.
I don't understand that one.
Yeah. So anyway, we find out here that the council's denied the request to bring things back because they have, quote unquote, interfered too much in the Covenant's affairs, which, Brescia, are you a Star Trek guy at all?
I know about it. I know some things.
This is basically prime directive from Star Trek, where like you're not supposed to interfere in like a civilization that's not ready to like be a Federation member. It's just like so the Jedi have the same idea. Is like where like they have their things going on. We should not be interfering in their natural way of life.
Yeah, and I find that interesting because that ties in with their interpretation of the Force, right? With the witches, they call it the thread.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how you guys feel, but I like that. I don't necessarily agree that every species, every group in the galaxy, in the universe, should know the Force to be the Force. I think that it's very cool to see it from a different perspective. Like, this group calls it the thread, and they understand how it works through their own experiences, right? So I do find a lot of appreciation in that.
Yeah, Nick, this is interesting for me because it's something we've never really seen with the Jedi before, where like Indara says the first time, like, we've been meddling too much in their affairs. We should know you out of here. Whereas like, that's not the tone she takes in Freeze episode where she says, I want to test the children, or most of the Jedi we see is, oh, like, we're going to go get involved whenever we can. We're the peacekeepers of the Republic.
I guess. I don't really have much to add.
Yeah. All right. So while this is going on here, we found out that Torben has been running the blood test for the twins. And this leads to something here that very interesting. They are identical on the molecular level, all the way down to the same, like, exact, like, genes and chromosomes. Like, where at first Soul says, "Oh, they're twins." Like, Torben's like, "No, they are literally like two halves of the same person." So the bipolar theory from Vince Laval a few weeks ago comes to play here. And this sort of, I saw this theorized online, Nick, that like this just sort of explains why the cloning has not been successful in the Palpatine Resurrection Heresy, because they can't replicate his exact like symbiotes or whatever his blood count is, no matter who they try it with.
Okay. To me, it's just they're two halves of a whole. One's, I guess, more compassionate. One's just pure evil in a way.
One's like chaotic
Yes.
evil.
Yeah. So that's how I took it.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, Nick, that they're exactly the same, and this goes to show that it must have been an intentional experiment done by the witches, right? By abusing the power of the thread. And I think that if Palpatine had a hold of this power, if he only knew, can you imagine what mayhem he could have brought on?
He would have made like 5,000 copies himself this way. That way he would never lose the Empire.
Oh yeah. That would have been absolutely terrible.
Yeah, Nick, it does make sense now that Palpatine clearly never learned this information. This is something he was trying to figure out, and that he never got this information that these witches seem to have.
I guess none of them survive, huh?
Yeah, I guess none of them made it. We don't know about these two yet, but I don't think either one of them was old enough to remember like what this information actually does.
Yep, that's right.
All right, so while it's going on here, Torben, who is still homesick, says, "You know what? This is our way out of here. This is our proof to go home. Like, we need the girls." He's gonna go. He basically steals a speeder bike. Decides, "I'm gonna go kidnap these girls." And Soul says, "Great, I'm gonna go follow you and go help you and save these kids." So they go off on the ship. They go off here. What's going on here? We cut back to the base, to the mine area, where we see Coral is teaching May how to use her anger as basically self-defense. Anastasia, we get the meeting, Mike, from Anastasia and the other witch of the Coven, which we were teased in episode 3, we didn't get. Anastasia basically argues that Osha wants to leave, we should let her leave. The Coven's like, we cannot, like, she's too important to us. And she has this line basically says, "I have a choice between mother and leader. I am choosing mother. So I am letting her do what she wants." So what do you think about the Anastasia? We basically realized that, hey, she was going to let her daughter do what she wanted.
Yeah, she was going to let her do what she wanted. It shows that Anastasia has compassion, right? This is something greater than the witches group, right? It's definitely interesting. I just find it funny with Torben, just going back to Torben real quick, how he was such in a rush to go get the girls to bring them back to Coruscant when the council didn't even want them to proceed further with this expedition anyway, right? Didn't the council want them to come home?
Yeah.
So, right? I mean,
The council didn't want them to go home. The council wanted them to just keep looking.
Yes, they keep finding their ticket.
Oh, keep on looking. Okay.
Find where the Vergence is, please. Yeah.
Even though they did.
Okay. Even though they did, yeah. No. Okay.
Because this Torben is saying, like, I found the Vergence. It's these two. We can go home now. Yeah. And Nick, what do you think about what Anastasia's choice was here, like with the whole situation with the Coven, where she chooses her daughter's interests over the interests of the entire Coven?
I think it's the strongest moment, possibly second strongest moment of the episode. It's very good for her to show some compassionate instead of being compassion rather than just being, I don't know, power hungry, if you will. I think that was a good character trait for her. A good moment.
Yeah, Mike, I'll make the argument that this was the right call, not only as Osha's mother, but as the group leader here, because in this case, you can build some goodwill with the Jedi. Osha goes to become a Jedi. She advances your cause with the Jedi. So I think like it's a win-win if you let her go and she actually wants to go.
Yeah, if you think about it politically, yeah, I think it does make it a good choice. But if only it went that way, right?
Yeah,
But,
if only Torben wasn't a hothead
yeah,
and Soul wasn't too emotionally involved in the situation.
exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of that situation here, we see Indara Kelnaka coming back here while this is going on. Soul and Torben go inside. They climb the wall again. May, we find out the fire, Nick, was, like we see from Oce's perspective, it's intentional. May looks like is curious about the flame. She lights the thing on fire, doesn't realize what's happening here, tries to put it out and runs for help here. That perspective change anything about May's actions for you here?
Very little. So yeah, I mean, I guess she tried. That's really it.
Yeah. We learned, like,
Yeah.
we thought May was trying to kill her. She was not.
Yeah, no, that is something, but like, it doesn't really change much on May in the future for me.
No,
Yeah,
May,
but Nick, think about this though. What about when she went through the ritual with the ascension?
yes.
Right, that gave her a new power, right? A power of fear and hate,
Yeah.
right? So that changes her dynamic entirely. So I think watching it again, right? Watching it through this new lens, I get a better understanding of it, and I could appreciate it a little more.
Yeah.
That she was acting erratically, but it's because she went through the ritual already. She changed. But then at that ending moment, she realized that she made a mistake, and then she got scared. She got very upset and panicked. Exactly.
Yeah, she was basically
The reason I don't appreciate it more is because I still don't understand why in the present timeline she wants to kill the Jedi. I still don't get it.
Oh, I get it. We'll get to that in a minute.
I don't think you get it. I think you think you get it, but I don't think the show makes it clear.
Oh, I think
She blames him.
the show
Why?
makes it plenty clear.
I don't think it does.
Yeah, I think
Well, with Torben especially, right? I mean, do you remember that?
The opposite.
Yeah.
Torben the opposite. I have no idea why he took a vow of silence. I have no idea. It makes no sense to me. He did the right thing. He went to go save the girls, whether it was for the wrong intentions or not, which, by the way, they just threw in to make it make sense. But whether or not it was for the wrong reasons, he went to go save two girls who are basically being held captive against their will, or one of them at least.
Yeah, well, at least
Now he's taking a vow of silence. Why?
Yeah, because I think he feels guilty about the genocide, basically that they caused by their actions.
But they didn't even kill anyone. They killed one person.
Yeah, yeah. Indara killed the rest.
Robbed of that. I thought I was at least looking forward to that by the end. Oh, we're gonna see them all get sliced. Nope. One.
Yeah. Yeah. So while this is going here, in terms of the May thing, real quick on record here is like Mike points out, she goes through the ritual. I mean, heightens her sense of fear, and then she acts out of fear of like, oh, Osha wants to leave, and Mother Anastasia may let her leave. I can't let her leave. And then she tries, and then she sort of panics and doesn't realize she's done. Then she runs, like, gets panicked and runs for help, which brings her right to the conflict that's going on here between Soul and Torben, and basically the coven here. Soul asks how the twins are created. Anastasia completely ignores this question, by the way. I will mention that. She doesn't give them any insight on this, but she says that the Jedi's noble intentions, which Soul claims here, this is noble intentions for us to try and figure this out here, are going to lead to the destruction of every Jedi in the galaxy. So she foresaw Order 66, Mike.
Yeah. Now I was just going to say that is foreshadowing to a T, right? But what are you going to do? That's how it goes.
Yeah, Nick, a very accurate prediction.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Your Mother Anastasia should get MVP consideration for that.
That's a tough call.
Yeah.
I have to give some thought to that.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we get to all the fights. We see that May comes out, tells her barons about the fire. At this point, Torben draws his lightsaber as Coral draws her staff out of here. At this point, Anastasia basically freaks out, says, oh, I gotta save my girl. She basically does the smoke thing that the Night Sisters do. She's trying to go and does it to Osha too. This freaks Soul the hell out, so he stabs the smoke. He kills Anastasia, and she says that I was gonna let her leave. And Soul has the oh shit, what have I done face as all hell starts to break loose, Nick.
Does it though? Does all hell break loose, or do they just defend themselves for a little bit and then everyone dies from their own doing and then they leave?
Yeah. Well, this situation,
I was so unbelievably disappointed in that. I'm like, okay, there's one gone. Now we're gonna go and they're gonna get angry, or these people are gonna attack them. They're gonna defend themselves and go a little too far, and that's why they feel guilty. No, they just killed one of them.
yeah, Soul killed the leader and started the whole thing that led to the witches possessing Kalnaka and leading to this whole bloody situation where Indara basically like forces the witches out and they all die that way. So Soul basically triggers the whole thing by acting out of fear.
Did the witches
Maybe
die?
I'll viewing it differently, but I don't see it as a thing. I see it as like the witches just tried to kill everyone, and then they died, and now they're mad. What?
I still
Yeah,
think
but Nick, did they die? Did the
Yeah,
witches actually die? Are we
Yeah.
sure about that?
we see the
I
bodies
don't
in
think.
episode 3.
Yeah, I don't think they wrote it on the screen. These witches are dead, but I think yeah, they're dead.
I mean, we saw all their bodies in episode 3.
Because that just boggles my mind. I mean, how that happened, right? And Nick, we were talking about a force exhaustion. Is
I
that
don't know if it's necessarily that, or if it's that Indara did something when she like went into Kalnaka's mind to like, you
Sever
know,
connection.
yeah.
now is that not the greatest Jedi move of all time? To be able to kill all those people so quickly?
Yep.
That's unbelievable. That's why I'm questioning it to this very minute,
I'm
like whether or
questioning
not
why
those witches are still
I'm
dead.
questioning why any of them are regretting their decision at all. Maybe Soul a little bit because he killed the girl by accident, kind of thing. But the rest of them, what did Kelnaka do? He got possessed. What did Indara do? She saved them from dying. What did Torben do? He tried to save girls, and they're upset about this. They should all be like, "Yes, we did the right thing."
Yeah, I think it's more the cover up was worse than the crime in a sense.
Maybe Soul I can see is feeling some guilt here because he killed
The mo-
Anastasia by accident.
Yeah.
I can see why he feels some guilt, but I still can't see why he has an obsession with the girls.
Yeah. So anyway,
I don't either.
this whole melee is going on here, and this happens here. Torben's like fighting off a bunch of them. He's pulling out Anakin Skywalker lightsaber moves, the laser behind his back, like slinging away blows now with his lightsaber here. While this is going on here, Coral is going after Soul for killing her wife. Soul does not fight back. He's not using his lightsaber at all. And then Coral disappears into the smoke, and she says, "You shouldn't have brought him here." And Soul's like, "No, like I like." Tara's like, "Don't worry, I steal my mind." It's like, "Not you, him." And then we see possessed Kalnaka, and this was the coolest action of the whole episode, Mike.
Was cool, and I'm glad to see Konaka finally doing something in the show, right? I know from the trailers we got to see Konaka doing his thing, but I was taken quite back when we found out that he got killed right away. Which, by the way, I do appreciate that in the show.
Yeah.
Because you get attached to these characters, and you're like, oh, nothing's going to happen to them, right? And that's pretty much a predictable thing all throughout Star Wars. But to be able to take these leaps where they have these characters and they die off rather quickly, I think those are good shots that they took.
Yeah. Yeah, and Nick, the Kelnaka action sequence was definitely cool, seeing how much a powerhouse he was, where he basically he gives Torben the scar, like he basically within inches of killing him before Soul intervenes, and it takes Indara coming in and basically doing the greatest Jedi like mind wipe of all time to get him back his right mind.
It does. I'm a little upset about it because I thought we were going to see Kanako like killing people, like being
Yeah.
like it. But we did get to see him fight, and that was cool. And to me, this is the highlight of the episode right here. One thing in the choreography that just kind of gave me the wrong, like rubbed me the wrong way. But I tried not to try to complain about this kind of stuff because I understand it's a show. Like people are like, "How did he survive that fall?" Like, come on, we're watching a show. But I didn't. I thought it was really strange when Kalnaka and Torben were like locked with their sabers and going back and forth. Like,
Yeah.
he's a Wookiee. He would destroy him with one finger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought that was a little ridiculous, but whatever. I mean, I don't tend to complain. Like I said, I don't complain about this stuff because you can literally complain about everything because none of it's real.
Yeah.
So, but the fight overall was I think the best part of the episode. Except I don't really understand why any of them feel guilt except Soul. I don't get it.
Yeah, this was, and as Pete would like to say here, we're talking about a show where we have wizards in space with magic light swords, like taking on evil monsters.
Yeah, if he falls
At the end
from
of the day,
50
right? That's what it is.
if they fall from 20 feet and don't be like, oh, that hurt, then we're not going to complain.
Yeah, I complain here, and I know the show didn't really explain how the witches die, but the closest parallel I can make it's not something that I think I will figure out without watching this show here. Nick, we're going back to our favorite animated show comparison here. You want to remember what show we frequently compare Star Wars to? Filoni Star Wars.
There's two. Is it Avatar?
Yes, it's Avatar.
Okay.
This to me was like Brescia, are you an Avatar, the last animated guy?
Not really. I'm aware of it, but haven't really watched.
All right, so there is this thing called the Avatar state on the Avatar: The Last Airbender, where basically like the current Avatar is just Aang. You can go into this basically supersonic mode from like the video game where like you get all your past lives, all this power, which you sort of see when all the witches are like communing together to control Kalnaka and basically making their meat puppet. But if you die in the Avatar state, you die. That cycle ends and all the avatars die. So this to me felt like Avatar state situation where like once Indara purged them from their mind, they were all in the state, they all died.
It's cool, but I don't know how I feel about it.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't need like it was not made clear at all because like you can make the case like, oh, are they actually dead?
Exactly, yeah, and that's my thought, because what if we see them in another flashback, if they have like a 5-minute flashback in the last episode, which, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they wound up doing that, but you know, it's just too awesome of a power to not see this enough in Star Wars. This is like one of the first times, at least in my, you know, my mind, that we see something like this happen.
Yeah, Nick, I guess we could assume theoretically that like even if they were just knocked unconscious, they got burned in the fire and they basically burned to death, but like not made clear explicitly to the audience that they're actually completely dead.
No, I thought they were going to get sliced.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to that. I thought they were going to like, you know, try to kill the Jedi to a point where the Jedi were going to say, okay, out of self-defense, you know, we need to go and take care of this. And I thought it was going to be an awesome scene, seeing them work together and kill these witches and then having May like watch it from another room, maybe be like, oh, now I want to kill them, but nope, she just wasn't even there.
Well, May sees her mother die, and she sees his soul and Torben were there when it happened.
Yeah,
and she knows the other two. So that's why I think she blames all of them. He's like, if you guys didn't show up, Osha could please ascension, then we're all living a happy family together on this planet.
I mean, I see that, I get it, but I think that's just really, really bad.
You're forgetting, Nick, because this is also an 8-year-old who's dealing with this, basically.
Right, but she's a 24-year-old when she's actually going through and killing them.
Again, though, like, she's 8 years old. She's filled with rage. She gets picked up by Chimera at some point. He just feeds on that emotion and convinces her, oh, this is the right thing to do. We got to kill these guys to get back at your job, because he has his own motivation. She just goes full throttle with it because she
doesn't go full throttle with it because after 2 of them, she said, I'm good.
That's because she thinks Osha, because they think that Osha's dead too.
This is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
it really is.
You know, Mike, I will say that that whole situation with the Jedi not killing the witches, you know, violently the way Nick was looking forward to it, you know, I think that shows the Jedi having their reservations, right? Acting with dignity and you know, really acting in self-defense, right? So it does hone in on the qualities of the Jedi, but it's a shame that then we see Soul with his, you know, overly passionate self.
It does make sense, but then it's like, I'm thinking to myself throughout the show going into this episode, all right, once this episode starts, we're like, all right, we're getting our answers this episode. I think that was pretty clear. So we're going into this episode thinking, they're really guilty about something. They must have really not did something the Jedi way. No, they did something the Jedi way, except Saul, of course. But that was really an accident.
Well, Torben too would agree.
I don't agree. I think he went to go save girls. And
I don't agree.
Silence.
Because basically, like, apart from Soul's word, how are you sure that like that what they're doing is not like in the best interest? They're still living with their family.
Whose other word is he going to take? He's with Soul.
Yeah. Well, he goes first.
Right, but like Soul's word was before that. Like he knew, he heard from Soul what was going on, and then he went. Like who else was he supposed to believe?
Yeah. Even so, I still don't think Torben gets. I think Torben has stuff to feel guilty for. Because if he just follows Indara's orders, doesn't go back. I don't think Soul was going to go back without Torben going first.
Well, yeah, he basically went to chase him, really, because Indara said get him back.
Yeah. So
But
Torben really is the trigger of all this, and Soul sort of just basically blew up the dynamite.
I think Soul was looking for a reason, was looking for someone to go with him, and then he went and he's like, all right, now I'm going to go too.
Yeah.
And Kilnaka, I think, literally has nothing to be guilty about at all. Literally nothing.
When we see Kilnaka in episode 4, like we see like
maybe he's guilty that he feels guilty that he used a metal detector in Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, we see in episode 4, like he's got the symbols like in his apartment. So clearly, like whatever the witches did to him, like left something in his mind where he's still obsessed with these symbols.
They were in Torben's mind. There's no symbols by Torben, is there?
No, but Kelnaka, he had like 17 of them. Like he had 50 of them in his mind, supposed to just one.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. So we also have to get this. Nick, let's get the Soul ending this episode here, because we get the sequence here where we see that Soul goes back to save the girls after Indara tells him to go back and get them. We see them on the bridges, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick. In episode 3, we see that Soul comes up behind Osha on the bridge and picks her up, and May falls. That's what we see in 3, right?
I thought we saw the same thing, Mike.
Do you remember this? Because I remember.
I thought we saw the same thing that we saw in 7 in 3. So I'm remembering different than you are. So Mike B, can you break the tie here? I thought we got the same.
I thought the way.
Yeah, no. Now that we're talking about it, it's like I'm kind of confused about it too. Like I'm second guessing myself. I thought it was the same way, but you have to rewatch it. Unfortunately, have to rewatch it, right?
Yeah, I have to go back to 3 and check this again. But
that will not be happening for me.
My memory of it was.
I'll let you know, Nick. I'll rewatch it. I'll let you guys know.
Because my memory of it was that Soul runs up behind Osha, and
when you say it, it kind of sounds right.
Yeah. Because what I remember is that Soul saves Osha, and I think we see Soul run up behind her while the bridge is falling. Whereas we see here, he's on the ground trying to hold both bridges up, and then he just chooses to save Osha and lets May plummet to her doom, which I think is.
So you're saying that's like May's point of view in a way, where it's like, oh, he did everything he can to save her, but not me. But then we see Soul's point of view, it's I didn't really have a choice. I just saved who I could.
Yeah, it's like
exactly.
They're both gonna die. I picked one.
Yep.
Yeah, which I think that's also part of a trigger feel like why May is bitter towards Soul. Like, hey, you left me to die, and you chose to let me die, basically. So I think
she's not really that into it, I guess, considering he's still alive, and she says, "No, I'm good."
Yeah.
Mike, I will say this though. I know there are some people out there who are upset that Soul did not use his powers to lift the girls up and bring them to safety. Yeah. Now, I will fight on that I don't think that's the Jedi way to use the Force.
Yeah.
To use it against an actual person, right? To lift up a person. I think using the Force that way is considered the dark side. So
to me, that's what I was kind of talking about earlier. And I'm like, I'm not going to nitpick if you fall from this height. Like, oh, you should have used the Force to do that instead of this and that. Like, you can throw that into every single death ever in Star Wars. Like, why didn't Dooku use the Force to realize that Anakin was going to chop his arms off? Like, why didn't Maul use the Force to realize that Obi-Wan was going to jump over him? Like, it can go on forever.
It's true.
Every single death ever, you can just say, why didn't they do this instead? You can't nitpick everything, because in a world where this supernatural thing, the Force, exists, in reality, if you can wield it as well as these Jedi can, none of them should ever die, ever.
Yeah, for me, it's sort of like a snap decision for him, where he's like, okay, like I don't have time to sit here and game plan what I'm going to do. He's like, this is like my impulse, and then I can't hold both of them. I throw all my energy towards slowing the bridge down enough so that Osha can like grab a rock and I can pull her up.
I mean, it sounds, I mean, it is what it is. I guess he had to come to a decision, right? He had to act brashly and act quick.
Yeah.
So
I guess the show is trying to, and they really failed at this one, but the show is trying to make you not hate the witches.
Yes.
So that way, when Torben does what he does, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry for my part in this," you're supposed to be like, "Yeah, he really messed up." But like me, I'm sitting here like, "No, screw them. I wanted them all to die. I'm glad he did what he did." So it doesn't work for me, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people agree with me that
I do.
they wanted them dead. So like, I don't that the whole vow of silence doesn't work for me. It should be like he should be screaming. He should be happy. Look what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of what he did, let's get to the end of this here where we see that after he gets back here, Torben apologizes for basically triggering the whole thing. Indara scolds both him and Soul here. Soul at this point has no regrets. Like, hey, I saved one of the girl. I did what I had to do. I got her out of this situation here. And we find out that basically he's like, I'm going to turn myself into the council if I roll in this. Indara says, nope, we're not doing that. We are going to tell them that May set the fire. They died in the fire. Ocean's the lone survivor, which is technically like what a lot of this does happen here. And she basically tells Soul, like, we are not making this child suffer more for your actions because you are the reason why she's in this situation, basically completely familyless. So what do you think of how Indara handled this, Mike?
He's trying to be.
I'll take over. It looks like we lost him. Oh,
yeah, he's having some internet issues here. So Nick,
connection, but no, I think I get it, right? If she tells
I don't know, be diplomatic in a way, but
sorry. No, we lost him.
also,
We lost him for a second, but he'll come back in. But I don't see any other way, really. If you do that, you're probably going to get stripped off the council or something, right?
yeah, I would assume like at that point, because
Or they're not on the council. But you see my point. Like
Soul basically gets like thrown in prison if he gets told what his role in this is.
Yeah, so in my mind, I get it. I see why they did that. Mike, as soon as you started talking, we lost you. So if you want to pick your thought up from where you were.
yeah, you know what happened? It was the witches because they heard that we're talking smack about them, so they're
Oh.
using the thread to disrupt our broadcast here. But anyway, yeah, I thought Indara was just trying to be, I think reserved and trying to, do what she thought was right to try to, conserve things, to try not to cause too much trouble, to try to save maybe her own hide, maybe to, keep things, hush hush quiet. But I don't know if it worked to her advantage and, to the Jedi's advantage.
I think, to my opinion, Mike, I feel like she's trying to do right by Osha at this point because she really didn't do anything wrong in theory here because, like, all she does is tell these guys don't get involved. They go get involved. She shows up, like, Kelnaka's trying to murder the other two. She saves Kelnaka, and then she says, go get the children. We need to protect these children now. You guys have made this whole situation a disaster. Soul says one. He says, this girl's attached to you. I'm not sending you to prison. Basically ruin this girl's life even more. So I think I get what she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question for the panel.
Sure.
I do not have an opinion on this, to make it clear.
Yes.
Either of you have an opinion that May falls to her presumed death, and we don't see what happened. How did she survive? Do you think that's bad writing, like we should find out, or do you think it's okay that there's a mystery there? I don't really have an opinion. I'm in the middle.
I'm fine with it. I mean, we see in the episode 3 that she like basically pops up by the tree. So like maybe like she just like, fell unconscious or something. Or she used the force to save herself or something.
Yeah, I'm kind of impartial too. Actually, I don't know if it's good or bad. Yeah, I honestly don't have an opinion about it either.
There's a lot worse writing the show than this.
Yeah, then
I agree on that one.
And that is my next point, is we haven't really discussed this yet on this show, is the budget.
Yeah.
This is the biggest budget in any Disney Star Wars show. It's a $180 million budget, which for the record is twice the budget of Kenobi, which blows my mind.
Andor wasn't bigger?
Andor might have been bigger, but not per episode.
Andor,
what about bigger?
250 million for 12 episodes.
Yeah. So here's what I need to understand. Now, I know neither of you have watched the show yet, but House of the Dragon on HBO,
Yeah.
which is essentially just Game of Thrones, it's a prequel, if you will, has the same budget per episode that this show has. Now, host Mike, I know you've not seen Game of Thrones. Mike B, I know you have.
Yeah, I know.
Can
You know,
you
I
tell
have.
me,
Yes.
can you tell me in what world is this show, in terms of budget and like production and set pieces and whatnot, even remotely close to Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon?
It's it boggles
Where
my
is the
mind.
money going?
Where's it going?
I think it's
That's a good point.
I think it's location shoots, to be honest with you. Location shoots are much more expensive than the volume.
Like, it's unbelievable. Like what you see in Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon, with these cities and these dragons and these and the costumes that they have and where they're filming. I understand they're filming in not locations, but like this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
CGI is better, right?
There is the money. CGI horrible. There's a spot that I've heard a lot on the internet. I haven't seen it myself, but I've seen this a lot when Torben got on the speeder and started speeding away to get back to the mining facility. Apparently, it was like the worst green screen ever, and you could see that it was just on like in like a studio.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know this specifically because I haven't seen it, but like, where is this going, and why do I not notice any of this in Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon?
I don't know.
Good point. Good question.
Yeah, misallocated.
Don't know.
Like,
Just
It's going to bring up a lot of questions for the next time they want to, drive with another show.
or if this show comes back and says, let's do season 2.
I don't know what they view as successful. Like, is the engagement success, or is people liking it success?
I don't know. But I think we should put a pin in this, Nick, and save it for the postseason show. I think we'll get another half hour debating this point.
Yeah, that's a great point for the post-season podcast. Hopefully, I'm around for it. And
Yeah, Nick might have some like vacation plans that might get pushed up.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I assume Nick will be here though.
Yep, we don't know.
All I know is that Nick will not be here at the end of the month when Pete and I talk about Lego Star Wars. Nick is not going to be around for that podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the character draft here. It's something we've done here. Once again, no updates here. So, Mike, these are the teams of the draft here. Nick got on the boards. He actually picked Ki-Adi-Mundi in the draft, so he has 1 point. The rest of us have 0 here. I think this is trending towards a 1-0-0 Nick win, unless somehow he Darth Plagueis next week.
Oh yeah, look at this, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So Ki-Adi-Mundi, you get that. Yeah, I don't honestly, I don't see these others. I mean, do we see Plagueis? Do we see Plagueis in episode 8? Yoda, at this point, I don't think, I mean, I say that, I don't think that they're going to have Yoda or Yaddle for that matter in episode 8, but you never know. Maybe that's where the budget's going, Nick, right? Imagine most of the budget is going to episode 8.
They said also that they couldn't have Yoda in episode, I don't know what episode it was. I think it was 4.
Yeah, it was 4 when Ki-Adi-Mundi shows up.
Yeah, they couldn't have him in because the budget was too much. So that's why they put Mundi in.
Yeah.
So like, what?
Which I noticed. I thought it was.
How much would that have cost then?
They couldn't make the puppet.
This is crazy. I mean, looking at this, I think that Pete has that Plagueis, the Plagueis draw, if you will, like a flush draw in poker.
I'm drawing dead.
You're drawing dead, but like you still didn't get that Keanu Reeves thing, which is it fake at this point?
I was assuming it's fake at this point.
So if it's not fake, you have a small chance there. I guess I could get Mundi again.
Theoretically, you could win 2-1 in theory.
I could potentially get Mundi again, and then the Yoda Yaddle thing is they shouldn't show up just based on the fact that they haven't yet. And it looks like they're avoiding the council on purpose. But like Mike said, you never know.
You never know. So we'll assume here. We'll discuss postseason what the stakes are for the win here. So we'll also update now the trackers we do every single week. Just 2 hit this week, Nick. So we update here the lightsaber color situation here. Yellow is still on top here because Torben has a yellow saber. So that's 8 for yellow, 7 each for green and purple. Red's at 5, blue is and red's at 5, purple's at 1. So yellow looks like it's gonna hang on here unless Soul starts lighting up his lightsaber. Another blue guy next week.
Yep. Looks like yellow's gonna win.
Yep. And Mike, we got another lightsaber duel here. We got possessed Kelnock against Torben and Soul. So that is 5 lightsaber duels this season.
Gotta love the lightsaber duels, right? Gotta appreciate them. Some were better than others. I think we saw that, and that is classic Star Wars, right?
Yep.
You can't go without a show without having some lightsaber duels. So always gotta appreciate it when it comes. I thought earlier, what was it? It was the lightsaber whip.
Yeah, that was last week.
That was incredible.
Yeah, I think that might be the only time we see it, though. It's my hunch.
Yeah, I think so. But just to see that in action was pretty awesome.
One of our social media comments also was that Kymir's scratches or marks on his back are from the whip, and that he's potentially her ex-apprentice.
Yeah, that's what I suggested in the pod last week also.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, which also I will point out here, Nick, before we get to the MVP LVP board here. The 2 worst episodes of the show, your opinion, the 2 episodes that do not have Kymir, aka Darth Shark, in it.
Yeah, I think he's been very, very strong. I think him and Soul, I think, are some of our best characters. And you're right. If he's not in it, the show suffers.
Yep. All right, so let's go to the MVP LVP board now. We kind of transition that way here. So these are the best and worst characters, 6 episodes, edited by us here. Soul on top of the board at +8 after 6 episodes. Kymir, aka Darth Shark, at +5. Pete gave him a point last week, so he joins me, keeping it close. Basil and Mother Anastasia both at +1. They are the positive. This is the entire positive section, Mike, is these 4 characters.
Yeah.
Which is not a great sign for the show.
No, it isn't. It isn't. You're right.
Vernestra is at 0. Then we have our negatives. -1's Yord, Osha, Jecki, the prison guard droid, the prison gang from the premiere, who I gave them the point, Mike, because they got caught 30 seconds after they left. Indara at -1, Mother Coral, Mog from last week at -1, and Pete hopped on board with you, Nick, gave May another LVP point. So she is down at negative, I think, 4 or 5.
It's crazy to see.
Yep.
That's what it is.
May's bring up the rear here. So as the guest, Brescia, you can go first. Who's the MVP of this episode?
It's interesting. Think about it. I mean, could we say Indara?
Sure, you can say Indara.
Could we say Indara for what she was able to accomplish? I mean, the force exhaustion, that alone, to be able to save Kalnaka and kill, quote unquote, the witches, which I'm still, hung on the jury about. But I thought that was real power there. And the fact that she was able to bring her team back home.
Yes.
She was able to save Osha. So I think that's a success on her part. So
yeah,
I'd give her the MVP.
I'm giving it to her as well for doing the best in a bad situation, because she has the right read through the whole episode. She was a bunch of morons who don't want to listen to what she wants to do, because Tori wants to go home and Soul is solely invested in these children for some really weird reason. But Indara does the best she can here. She saves one of the children. She gets there to try and save her team. She does what she can. She correctly figures out, Soul going to jail is no good for this kid who has one attachment is 2 souls. So I'll give her the MVP point here. So Nick, we'll say Pete for next week. What are you doing?
I'm going to do the same. I think she was the best character. And like you said, made the best of a bad situation for them. Something that I guess they're not happy about. Still not really sure why, but that's not for the MVP debate. And the MVP debate, I think she's the best character.
Yeah, and Mike, she's now the 5th character in the positives.
Isn't that something? There she goes. Yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, I don't know.
All right, LVP section here. I know the temptation is very easy to give it to Soul because he kills Anastasia. I'm giving it to Torben. I feel like Torben sucks in this episode because All he's doing is whining, like, I want to go home. I'm not going to study the thing. I want to go back to Coruscant and hang out my technology and stay away from the forest. So I think him also running back to go get these girls triggers this whole thing. So I'm giving him the LEP point. So, Nick, what do you got?
So I think this was very bad for his character this episode. I now I'm starting to question whether or not he's a good character in the show at all, because I'm starting to see signs of weakness of him, and I'm starting to see unclear motives, and I'm failing to understand a lot of his character now, and I'm worried about that considering there's one episode left.
Mike, what you got?
You know what? I was on the fence, but I'm gonna have to agree with Nick. You know, I think Soul takes it. You know,
Yes,
for all of the reasons that he gave.
this is Soul's villain era.
Yeah, it seems that way. I was going to say, I mean, you know, the witches for dying, quote unquote, from the force exhaustion, but that's just, you know, a cop out. Definitely Soul in this matter. LVP.
All right. So also I had the board wrong. May was at -6 for the LVP. So she is way down there.
Sucks for her.
It does suck for her.
Sucks for the character.
It's very unfortunate.
All right. So now we're going to grade the episode on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worse than 970 holiday special. 10 is up to the Prison Break episode of Indara for the pinnacle of live Star Wars content. And Nick, you're first.
Okay, so the way I am going to do this is I'm going to go back to the episode 3 rundown, which we did a few weeks ago, and I
Correct.
gave the episode a 1.5.
Yep.
Now, this episode, I think, was worse because we had to watch it again. But the battle was pretty cool at the end.
We got some good fights.
So I think it
It's
evens
still
out,
happening.
and I think it's a 1.5.
So it's exact same grade.
Yep, because I think it was worse in some ways, but the battle was pretty cool. We got to see a Wookiee Jedi fight. We got to see a lightsaber duel which I got to say, the best part of the show has been the choreography. The duels are pretty cool.
Yeah.
They
Nick,
are.
that's where the budget went.
Maybe.
All the training, right? All the choreography work. Yeah,
Yeah.
could be. Yeah,
Um,
Nick, I have a question for Nick. So you gave it a 1.5 and you gave episode 3 1.5. Is that you saying that the Star Wars Christmas special is still the worst thing of any Star Wars material?
Star Wars Christmas special, I guess, would be a 0, and Rise of the Skywalker. I call it Rise. I don't even know what it's called. What is it called? The Rise of Skywalker or Rise of Skywalker?
The Rise of Skywalker.
Whatever it is. Episode 9 is the 1.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Mike, your grade.
I'll be a little more forgiving than Nick. I'll give it a 3
Okay.
because it does add a little more to episode 3, which I thought was definitely the worst episode of the show. But for my reasons, right, even though we're seeing it from different lens, it adds more to it. It gives more reasoning, whether you like it or not. I do appreciate that, so that's why I'm giving it a more lenient score.
Nick, do you still have the rundown over episode 3?
I can get it up in literally 5 seconds if you give me that.
I'll give you that because I would like to know what my grade was for episode 3.
Oh, yeah, I can get that to you very shortly. I have it open right now. Just scroll to the bottom. Mike, you gave episode 3. Oh, sorry. Give him some more time. It's
Yeah, we're filibustering here.
now I opened the wrong one. Now I have it open.
Yeah.
You gave episode 3, and I quote, a 6.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of the flashback. I thought we were done with it at that point also. I didn't think we were doing a full episode here. So 5.
That was crazy. To me, 5 is average.
Yeah.
If this is average, I need to know what's bad. I need to know.
Do we want to go back and sit through early Boba Fett again?
I would sit through
Whoa.
early Boba Fett over this any day.
You want to
I might agree with that. I might agree, Mike.
Yeah.
On watching Boba Fett, yeah.
You have not watched Boba
Over
Fett
this.
in 3 years.
I would do anything to go back to watching Boba Fett.
Yeah, even early Boba Fett, where we're just, like getting to know the culture of the Sand People.
I wonder if we can find a way to go back far enough and find our rankings for Boba Fett. I wonder if it's still on the drive somewhere because I'm really interested in what we gave that. I heard episode 2 was the one where he's like making friends with the Sand People, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's possible that we can find out.
And we robbed the train.
Oh, you know what? I got news for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find it.
All right. You can find it here. While you're doing it here, we go to prediction.
I found it already.
You found it.
I gave it a 7. You gave it an 8. Brescia, you were on that episode. You also gave it an 8. And Pete gave it a 5.
Our standards were very low at that point, clearly.
You guys gave it
an 8.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the predictions.
All right. Predictions for next week here. So, Mike, starts out here. We haven't know you. The rumor title of this episode is Doom. Doom. That's the rumor episode title. What do you think is going to happen in the finale of the show?
I don't know. I mean, it has to all come to a close, right?
Yeah,
or it doesn't. And Disney Star Wars is trying to throw in another season of this nonsense. But I'm hopeful that there'll be some sort of justification with all the craziness they gave us in these last 7 episodes. Chimera will see come back. There'll be closure on that part. Maybe there'll be further understanding of Soul's intentions. Maybe we'll see the witches come back. Maybe, like I said, maybe they didn't die. Maybe they were just paralyzed and they were knocked out, and they were able to get off before everything all went bluey. So I think that could be it. Maybe the witches come back and they side with Chimera and they wreak vengeance. Hence the title.
All right, so I'm gonna go here with some sort of mix up here. I feel like Soul is gonna tell May the truth. I think he's finally gonna come clean. May ends up relaying this to Osha. So they will have a meeting here of the minds of the 4 of them. And Osha, I think we were sees this in the last episode. I think Osha falls to the dark side. I think Osha joins Chimera. And we see that, don't forget, Nick, we have an unconfirmed David Harewood appearance in the show. He has not appeared in the show yet. I think he shows up. He is Chimera's boss and kills Chimera. I think, and then Osha becomes his new apprentice.
Do you think it's Plagueis or what's his name?
I think it's Tenebrous.
Tenebrous?
Yeah. David Harewood is Tenebrous and kills Chimera.
All right. So I guess my turn.
Yep.
I agree with that last part. I completely agree. I think Osha will join Chimera and David Harewood is who it is.
Yep.
I think that he will be Tenebrous and kill Chimera. I completely agree with that. The other thing is, you say Soul's going to tell May the truth. I feel like that doesn't even the truth is just a point of view. Like he's like, yeah, I tried to save you. I couldn't save both of you. Like what truth? I don't really understand. He killed her by accident.
Yeah, I think that's the point. I was trying to bring you both to safety. I thought you were in danger.
So just tell him his point of view, you mean?
Yes. It's respectful.
Okay. Well, I think that Soul is gonna die. And I think that May is gonna die too.
And you think that just drives Osha to the dark side?
No. I think it's just because if Soul doesn't die, the amount of people on the internet that are going to go absolutely crazy about the canon being broken because he's going to have that information on his way back to the council. I think he has to die, or else I kind of agree that canon might be broken.
Plus, Vernestra's still floating around there somewhere too with her ragtag team. We don't even talk about them.
Yeah, I don't know. They're going to be in. You can write this too. Right? Vernestra will be there because I know something's going to happen with her, but I don't know what at all.
Maybe she dies too.
Honestly, I find that these people need to die, and I don't think they're going to, and it's really it's scaring me.
Maybe.
They have to if they're not, I agree 100%.
They're going to die eventually, sure, but I think they might hold on and say, no, these characters are all still alive, because guess what? Premiering in the spring of 2026, it's Acolyte Season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's still very possible with this show we're going to get another season because they need something live action wise. Andor is ending. another season of Ahsoka coming. There's not really much beyond that skeleton crew, which Nick seems to think is
I
going to be a disaster.
don't think they're doing another season of Mandalorian, are they? Like we've gotten so many mixed reports on what's going on with them, with the movie and the season and both, and I don't even know what, like, besides Andor, Ahsoka, and like you said, Andor's ending. They don't really have anything on the plate. I
Yeah.
can't imagine Skeleton Crew's the show that kicks off the new cult of Star Wars, where people are like, yes, let's get more skeletons. I can't imagine. I'm not saying it's gonna be a bad show. I can't imagine,
Jude Law and the kids for the win.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
All right, so that's it for now. Pete will be back next week. We promise to recap the finale of the show.
I don't know. I don't know if you can say that for sure. He might watch this episode and say, guys, I'm done.
I think he's committed to us enough to stick through it.
I'm joking. He'll be back.
Yeah. And Mike, thanks for coming on, doing your annual appearance on the live action show. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure to join in and talk some good stuff on Star Wars.
Yeah, people want to follow you on social media, Mike. How can they do that?
They can follow me, Instagram, Twitter, X, Brescianator. That's my handle.
All right, cool. Nick, one more time. People want to follow us on social media. How can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast. It's on Instagram, it's on Twitter, it's on Threads, and it's on TikTok.
Right. You can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. This is going to run the Just on the Suffering podcast. We talk some Mets with Michael Barron of Just Mets. That episode is out now. Plus, Nick, I also share my thoughts on episode 2 of Hard Knocks offseason of the New York Giants. I thought it was a much better episode than the first one was.
Oh, when am I coming on to talk about that?
Next week.
All right, so I got 3 to watch for next week.
Yeah. I will say 2 is much better than 1.
All right, yeah, no, I'm really excited. I think I'll like it regardless. It's just kind of what I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, Nick, in episode 2, they actually showed you interviews at the combine with the Giants and some of the top quarterback prospects.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Definitely a fun watch there.
Besides the fact that it's the Giants, I think it's a great idea for a show just to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a combine week this week on that on that show. So
very cool.
All right, we'll be back next week with the finale of the Acolyte season 1. We'll see what's happening then. But until then, may the Force be with you.